Hey guys, Austin here. What's going on? The winter season of 2023 has begun, and holy shit, it's 2023. The winter season of 2023 has begun, and honestly, it's looking pretty promising. I don't have the time in my busy schedule to watch all of these shows, but currently I'm watching 6 of them. So today I'm going to run through those 6 and my thoughts on each of them, and tell you if I think each entry is worth your time or a waste of time. I won't be covering sequels because more than likely if you've seen the previous season, you should know if you want to see the new season. All of that being said, let's get started. Tomochon is a girl. That happens to be the name of the show, as well as the statement that the tomboyish main character, Tomo Aizawa, wishes she could hammer into the head of her childhood crush and friend, Junichiro Kubota. Despite her constant efforts to display to him her girly side, Jun still sees her as just another one of the boys. He seems to be pretty dead set on this idea too. I mean, this girl literally confesses her love for him, and his response is basically, "Cool story, bro." The show does, however, sprinkle in moments that show that he obviously knows she's a girl, but seems to like to pretend that she's not. Probably not to ruin the bromantic bond that they've had since they were kids. You can't help but feel kind of bad for Tomo, as a character that seems so hung up on this friend that seems oblivious to most of her actions. But despite feeling sometimes that she honestly should just get over this guy, because in the grand scheme he doesn't seem worth it, it still succeeds in making you root for her on her quest for romance. All of this comes together with the proper elements expected for a seasonal rom-com. It can be funny and quirky one moment, and then heartfelt and wholesome the next. Although there is a part of me that questions if this premise will run thin before the end of the season. But as of now, it's a lot of fun, and if it sounds like your kind of show, then it's worth your time for sure. Revenger. This samurai era-based series revolves around assassin Raizo Kurima, who gets caught up in some shit that includes opium dealers, him being manipulated into murdering his soon-to-be father-in-law, and the suicide of his fiancée. So you know, normal stuff. These events are the tipping points to convincing him to accept an invitation from local general store owner Yuen Usui to join his underground group of individuals that take vengeance for the people powerless to do it themselves. The group is simply called...
It's called the Revenges.
There's some pretty decent animation and cool action here. I tend to love series that focus on samurai and all that comes with that, as it's a setting that instantly catches my attention purely on face value alone. But for obvious reasons, this can't be the only requirement to make this worth a watch. While Revenger hasn't presented any plot points that are groundbreaking by any means, it has 100% succeeded in catching my interest in its intrigue and world building. I do feel like there's something here that has motivated me to look forward to the remaining episodes, and I'm anxious to see where this story and these characters are going. So as of the creation of this video, I'd say that this show is worth your time. The Legend of Heroes, Trails of Cold Steel, Northern War. A lengthy title that could only be better if you added The Reckoning or Resurrection to the end of it. All jokes aside, the words Northern War in the title are referring to a conflict between the Erebonian Empire and the Northumbria state. Lavian Winslet, our protagonist, is a girl from Northumbria who enlists in a large mercenary corps known as the Northern Jaegers. She joins this with a few intentions, one to protect her hometown, and the other to distinguish herself from her grandfather, who was once a hero that betrayed their country. She is one day ordered to assemble a platoon for an impossible spy mission to Erebonia to gather information on a mysterious threat to Northumbria. I feel like there's not a lot of good I have to say on this one so far, but I guess I can preface my thoughts by saying going into this that I had no idea that this firmly places itself in between 2 video games in a franchise that I've never played. So how it fares as an entry in that universe, I can't really speak on. But on the stuff I can speak on, the show as a whole is leaving a lot to be desired. Its animation is subpar to the standards of today, the characters all seem very one-dimensional, and the story seems to be unfolding in a dry, unoriginal, and dull fashion. Now, if this is anything that might be enhanced if I was a fan of the games, that's another story. But in the past, when I've watched shows based around video games that I hadn't played, there have been several that have made me at least curious to look into its source material. The Legend of Heroes, however, not so much. Although I do admit that there are some elements of its lore that seem kind of cool, it still hasn't fully convinced me that further episodes should remain on my watch list. Which is not to say I'm dropping it, but simply that I feel no urgency to come back to it week after week. And so I would say at this point that it's a waste of time. The Ice Guy and His Cool Female Colleague. In this story's version of Japan, there reside some inhabitants that have spirits for ancestors. Himuro, the descendant of the Snow Woman spirit, possesses ice magic, and when in deep concentration, overly stressed, or even flustered, he involuntarily creates a blizzard surrounding himself and anyone in his vicinity. His new co-worker, Fuyutsuki, is a magicless normal human female, who, when Himuro has his moments, does her best to help him through them. What makes it more helpful is her calm demeanor. And honestly, it's not just calmness. This girl barely reacts to anything, even from their first encounter. Like, literally nothing phases her.
Hello.
Hi, I'm the descendant of an ice spirit.
Really?
Yeah, that's why my feet are frozen.
That makes sense.
Also, I can do this.
Wow.
And I also poop ice cream. Wanna see?
Okay.
Alongside these two at their job is an office full of characters. You have another regular human, a fox spirit, and Buddha. But primarily, it seems to be focused on the two leads through their adorably wholesome moments. Like Fuyutsuki giving Himuro some cat whiskers. Okay, that's a little weird. There's not a whole lot going on here, to be honest. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, as each season there are typically shows like this that are just short and sweet slice-of-life shows that don't have anything grand to bring to the table. And I actually happen to like these kinds of shows and their simplicity. It can be a bit of a palate cleanser. This show is my seasonal pick for the Wholesome as Fuck Award. If this kind of thing isn't your cup of tea, then don't bother. But if you enjoy these types of shows, then without a doubt it's worth your time. Buddy Daddies. Two roommate assassins, Kazuki Kurusu and Rei Suwa, track down their target, a mafia boss, at a big hotel in Tokyo on Christmas Eve. Unbeknownst to them at the same time, the 4-year-old daughter of said mafia boss, Miri, is at the same hotel in search of the father that she has never met. And, well, Papa gets eliminated. Trust me, it's a feel-good show. Miri mistakes Kazuki for her now-deceased father, and the two hitmen take the girl home until they can find her mother to return her to. This leads to Kazuki and Rei having to merge parenting duties with assassin duties, ensuing hilarity in a variety of scenarios. This series surprised me from the get-go. It's a seasonal entry that screams bingeability, at least to me. I found myself instantly interested in its plot and tone, and fully drawn in by its two leads that absolutely have more layers to them underneath the surface. Watching the shenanigans of them raising a kid in the midst of their profession, which is obviously not child-friendly, is a tremendously entertaining ride, and is something that I expected from a show like Yakuza's Guide to Babysitting last year, when instead I was delivered something passably average and felt I could have skipped it and it wouldn't matter. Buddy Daddies, however, is a joy so far, and I hope it continues to entertain because I'm along for this very enjoyable action family comedy, and in hopes that you also will feel the same, it is totally worth your time. Trigun Stampede. On the planet No Man's Land, two reporters, Meryl Streep and Roberto De Niro,
You talking to me?
search the desert for the infamous outlaw known as Vash the Stampede. But upon their discovery of him, they realize that there is no way that this carefree drifter is the lethal terrorist that seems to have such a high bounty on his head. Instead, the reputation belongs to his twin brother, Knives. From this comes a variety of bounty hunters out for his head so they can rake in the big payout. This is a series that wasn't originally going to be on this list. As the big fan that I am of the original Trigun from 1998, it being somewhere in my top 10 favorite anime of all time, I was held back at first due to the character redesign, story element changes, and CGI rendered animation. I thought there was no chance in hell that something that was more than likely a lesser than half-baked imitation of the beloved show would be in the slightest something to put time into when I could go watch the masterfully done 90s classic. Despite that, I felt a draw to it as the episode started to show up on Crunchyroll, so I decided to put my bitterness aside and try it out. And I can proudly say, thank God I was wrong. By caving and giving it a shot, I quickly realized that all the main story strokes are here, and any elements that either didn't make the transition or were changed entirely don't come off as unnatural or missed as I once assumed they would. The design change for Vash, while not my favorite thing, is easily ignored as the character himself is exactly the same personality-wise as he was before. And I don't feel like I'm watching a whole new protagonist or anything, which going based on appearance seemed to be the case. Also, while I think anime is always better look-wise, when in its traditional 2D form, Studio Orange continues to push the boundaries of just how damn good a 3D anime can look. Needless to say by all these comments that I'm vastly enjoying this new take. From the start, I didn't feel alienated as an OG fan, I more so felt this overwhelming sense of welcome, as if I'm coming back home after a long way away. Would I say this fresh take is on par with its 1998 predecessor, or hell, even 2010's Badlands Rumble? Definitely not. Those are some giant shoes to fill for me and other fans alike. But as a brand new telling of this great story, I feel entirely satisfied with it and excitedly look forward to the rest of it to unfold. Trigun Stampede is, with no shame involved, my personal pick for the best anime of the season, and along with that, an obvious declaration that it is worth your time. So that's it for today. Let me know down in the comments what you're watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.